Okay, this is it. Pod 143 of the world's most bullish podcast, Bullish Bitcoin Banter and Bullshit. And this is brought to you by three suspects in the house: Mr. All In, aka the Trillion Dollar Man, myself, Sir Never Look, aka the Excellence of Execution, and Mrs. No Show, aka Mrs. No Show. So regular viewers will realize Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, is nowhere to be seen. Cried off somewhere, hasn't he?
We don't even know where.
No,
No
No
excuse.
show had a good excuse last week. It's gay pride. So
it was
Yeah.
gay pride. It was gay pride. I've got the photographs. We should put them up on
Whoa,
Twitter.
whoa, whoa. We're not trying to get. It's less than a minute in. Yeah, let's just not get cancelled straight away. You
send a
keep
link to your
those
own account.
photos. Yeah, yeah. Keep your photos in your own photo roll. But yeah, Dr. Evil 10% is maybe stuck in gay pride encore. Well,
Yeah,
that's
maybe he's
the
going to
room where I'm going
the.
to start.
He might be going to the the closeted version. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the openly gay, and then there's the closeted, isn't there? So maybe
Yeah.
he's going to week two, where
Yeah. Yeah.
Week two was more hardcore. Whips, chains, that type of
Yeah.
stuff. I swerved that.
it's week two is when like Kevin Spacey, Philip Sco Philip Schofield,
P. Diddy.
Dr.
He
Evil
did it.
10%. Who knows, eh? It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. It's good to keep the gays busy for a month, isn't it?
Whole month.
Whole month. Whole month.
Apparently, it's Men Month as well, or something I've heard.
Have to do it at the same time just to take the shine off it.
I know. I've heard that. Someone was complaining under one of the gay pride tweets, going, "Oh, men like do all this for like the world. Da, da, da. We should have a whole month, not just a Father's Day." And apparently, we do have a month, and it is June. I'm like, oh, okay. It's first I've heard of it.
Right.
There's another thing the gays took from us. God damn
I
it.
mean, it is Father's Day this weekend.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah. I can already see this week's thumbnail of Dr. Evil 10% bouncing on a rainbow. Let's see if AI can generate that.
Not strapped up with Rammstein in the background and somebody with a
just
massive.
make it as clickbaity as you can. You know,
Got me to the theme
I don't
tune.
mind.
Like you spin me right round, baby, right round.
Yeah, that's the one.
So that brings back horrible memories of that website that used to get sent around at school, and it's just like there was something else spinning around. Let's just say that you click the link. It wasn't what you expected. You're like, whoa.
Well,
And there's also another one in here, like
for those that are listening,
Yeah, well done. You've picked the right option. Yeah.
so
you don't
spin
have
me
to
right
see
round, baby, right round, 90s meme gif or something, and then you will find it. That was our version of Twitter back in the day, just sending around like you're just trying to trick people, aren't you? It was like the original one
Yeah.
with Rick rolling, and it was all like, oh, nice and soft and friendly. Like, but what if we tricked you to go to something disgusting? And that's where
that.
Goatsy, Lemon Party, Spin You Right Round, all the legendary links that,
Yeah.
that are
As long as we
literally
don't start talking
engraved in
about
my
girls
brain.
and cups, we'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you saw that link, and if that
Yeah,
URL was long, you'd be like,
no,
nope, no, I see
no.
what you're trying to do here. I see what you're trying to do.
It never gets
Uh,
old. I actually
yeah.
talk about something that never gets old. I actually saw another there's another funny tweet I saw today, and it was from this. Apparently, her name is Science Girl. Never heard of her, but it's a girl, right? Hence why she won't get this. There's a big quarry. She literally won't get it. This is technically, I am literally being sexist. So there's a big quarry, right? And there's a huge rock on its side, and there's four guys trying to kick it down the hill. They're standing there like pushing it. And her tweet is just, why, right? And my reply is straight away going, man see big rock near water, man push rock in water. This is the way. You know, it just is, right? I can't walk past. If I see a rock like next to a lake and it's just loose on the ground, it's going in. Like, there's no rationality behind it. It needs to, the rock needs to go home, and it's home, and I want to see the splash. And it's a man thing.
I want the struggle of the push, watching the descent, and then the splash.
The bigger the splash, the better. I saw that tweet because you commented on it, and I just resonated. I was like, if that's me, I'm pushing the rock in the big water. It's happening.
Yeah, because I actually I was talking to the wife, and she was kind of like, it is a bit silly. I was like, look, these guys there's pros and cons of this thing, right? The con is push rock, goes in water, big splash. Ooh. The con is you could die if it rolls back onto you and crushes you. Worth the risk, one big splash.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why men die earlier than women. But we also get to see lots of rocks go into water, and it's very rewarding.
I think the easiest way to explain it, I saw a meme on Insta about 2 hours ago, and it literally just said me showing my wife a joke, but her not laughing because she doesn't have the sense of humor of a 13-year-old boy. And it's like, that is it. That's fair.
Exactly it.
And we never mature out of it.
Never.
God damn it, I'm pleased, because life would be boring otherwise. Life gets so serious so quick. Like, if you're not a bit silly, you're not living. It's
true. Right, should we get this reverse Oreo on the go?
Yeah, let's actually talk about Bitcoin, eh?
Yeah. So, Jason Lowry. I needed to do that, especially with the release of Bad Boys 4. He's been asked to go to not Detroit, DC by Donald Trump and co. So, Jason Lowry, do you want to just give us a little bit of background as to who he is?
Yeah, so he's a recent guy that's entered the Bitcoin space, and he's an ex-military person, so he comes from it from a military angle, and he wrote a book that actually got banned. It's all a little bit mysterious. I'm trying to find the title of the book. Do you know what the title of the book is?
No, I was literally just clicking now.
Bitcoin book. Let's have a look. Here it is.
Soft War.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
a novel theory on power projection and the national strategic significance of Bitcoin. So let's have a look. Yeah, because it's oh wow, it's actually, is it available on Amazon here?
It is. It's shown as available, but at the price of £36 for a paperback.
And well, just so you know, that is bargain basement, because the book's been pulled from publishing, so there's only a few thousand copies out there apparently. So yeah, so he wrote the book anyway, Soft War, and then he went. It was about a year ago. Well, it's probably about 2 or 3 years ago. He probably popped up in the Bitcoin space. People thought he was a plant. They thought it was controlled opposition. Calling Bitcoin almost a weapon of war is potentially positioning Bitcoin as something that people hear that they're going to have negative connotations. He did the podcast rounds. He had a very unique twist on it, and I think I agreed with a lot of what he said. He obviously understood Bitcoin to a great detail, and essentially felt that Bitcoin was going to be the decider really on who wins the big wars. Because if you adopt Bitcoin, then essentially you can fund your military, and if you don't adopt Bitcoin, then you'll go the way of the people that adopted silver over gold back in the day. If you can't pay your army, you don't have an army. But yeah, he just, it was about a year ago, he just disappeared. His book got pulled, no explanation, and he disappeared off the podcast route, and he stopped tweeting, just disappeared. So it's almost like what's happened to him. And then he popped back up again about 6 months ago or so, after disappearing for a good year. And everyone was like, where did you go? And he went, I can't talk about it, but largely your guesses were correct.
Mm.
And the guesses were, you're clearly from a military background. You know quite a lot of the ins and outs of how the military complex works. You've relayed that into Bitcoin and then been talking about it very openly on podcasts, and then wrote a book about it, which also talked about the military complex in quite granular detail. He did get pulled. He got taken in, if you infer it, by the FBI/CIA and told, stop it, enough, go quiet, or we'll permanently make you go quiet. So he went, yeah, so the book's permanently pulled. I can't say why. And I'm gonna ease off on the Bitcoin stuff from now. And yeah, so it's quite a surprise really to see him pop up and go, he's been approached by the Trump administration. And like even in his tweet, right, he goes to talk about you know what. He doesn't want to put Bitcoin in the tweet. And even said, I'm willing to move to DC if called upon. So I don't know. It's weird. We've had Trump in here like the last the last 2 weeks, and it really does look like Trump is really doubling down on the expertise that he has in his administration around Bitcoin. And obviously Jason Lowry would be another example. This could be obviously a misstep, because if he is what we suspect he was originally, which is a controlled opposition, he'll come in and twist the Bitcoin narrative to be negative, even though he's pretending for it to be positive. But yeah, another Trump and Bitcoin story, which can be interesting to see how this plays out and how much of a where in the talking points is it? Once he gets on stage and really starts going, vote for me. Bitcoin, the 15th bullet point, which means he never mentions it, or is it in his top three? It's be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I didn't know the full background to Jason Lowry prior to you describing it like that. I just thought that they'd pick somebody that was in the Bitcoin space that could help them progress things. But yeah, just doing a little bit of digging as you were giving the background to that, it says that the Pentagon actually pulled the book. So yeah, for those in the UK listening, you can still get it on Amazon, but I found a digital version of the book, which we'll link in the show notes as well. I think that this is the way that Trump has to go in terms of battling against the machine, because I think a lot of people, and I know we were talking about it just before we came on air, a lot of people will probably gravitate even more towards Trump because of the fact that he's been persecuted in the way that he has, and they'll see the fact that if they can do it to him, they can do it to me. If he's had an unfair trial, which by the accounts that I've read, it seems like it was the case. The judge was certainly on him from the outset, and there's been a lot of mishappenings within the case. Then, yeah, I think it's just only going to reinforce. And again, before we went on air, we saw Granddaddy Biden and his gibberish on stage. It's not looking good for them.
Yeah. Well, them is it. I think for me, obviously, I don't care who wins. I don't think the presidency number one has any power. So even if the person that gets in isn't a puppet, which I think between Trump and Biden, if I had to go on, are they puppet, are they not? I would probably say they both large. I would guess they both are. Clearly, Biden is the only one that's slightly in debate. Is Trump in the pocket of the elite? I'd probably say yeah, but the seat, the position holds no power. And clearly, there's the people around that control that presidency. Obviously, every government already has, like, they're very public with the fact that the US have a Senate, we have a House of Lords. These are literally unelected old guys that get to veto anything that the president or prime minister says, and that's just in the open. And there's a load of people behind those guys so you just go, even in the open, we have a load of unelected old boys club that get to veto what the democratically elected leader is deciding to do, and they can literally stop him doing pretty much anything. And you go, right, this is all bollocks. But what could be interesting here is even if Trump is using Bitcoin as a vote winner, what he's doing is publicizing Bitcoin, and he's publicizing it from what I'm hearing so far, he's publicizing it not for your number go up, get rich quick. He's actually pushing it for the right reasons. It's like an alternative to gold. It's an alternative to the CBDCs. That is true, and there's a lot of people that don't know this.
Yeah,
and they're going to hear it through this campaign.
Yeah. He obviously, as you mentioned, he openly said during his presidency there will be no CBDCs. And, to the average person, I'm sure that they'll be thinking, what does he mean by that? And for those that are semi-curious, they may go off and actually research, okay, what does he mean by this specific thing in his manifesto? And if they do, then all the more. But let's say, he makes sure that this doesn't happen during his reign and presidency. It's now permanently etched into the minds of everybody else. So whoever comes next after that also either has to uphold that, or obviously if they forego it, and then they've got to vote against them as opposed to for them.
Yeah, I think there's another interesting angle there as well, though, which is the question, why is he so against it? So they might not know what it is, but they might ask, like, why is he making such a big deal out of this thing? Like, why does it matter? And that's the rabbit hole that people might start going down.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing not knowing what it is and trying to find out what it is, but then it's the next question is, well, why doesn't he want that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point.
But yeah, it's interesting. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and you traditionally pigeonhole Trump as being like the dollar, the dollar, the dollar. And in the back of his mind, if it is his mind talking, Bitcoin is the anti-dollar, So again, so many different interesting angles to all of this,
Well, let's keep a lookout and let's see if Jason is called upon in terms of helping at not the White House, but helping with the Trump administration team and how they can actually push that forward. So the next story that we've got, it's a really, really interesting story. And I don't know if you're going to click because the link is pretty long. It's like 21 minutes or so, 20 minutes. Do you think it was 21 on purpose, by the way?
No, I don't think it is. But
it
would be nice.
Yeah, it was.
If it was 21, nice. 21. It's
yeah.
21, it's 21 minutes, 30 seconds.
There we go.
Take 9 seconds off and it's...
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they could have done some editing to make that happen as well. But ultimately, this is a fantastic story. So just by the way of background, a guy came across Bitcoin back in 2013. Had a couple of coins, but he used a password generator to generate what he believed was a 20-character long password with symbols as well as full capital letters and lowercase letters, and then encrypted it onto his PC and didn't really look at it and left it. Then came to look at what he used as part of that for his Bitcoin at the time, and then couldn't remember what it was because he didn't really remember what it was.
The file got corrupted in the password generator, so they didn't get it back at all. It was totally corrupted.
And this is, when I was watching it, I was just like, oh my God, this feels like the worst nightmare ever. And it obviously goes back to security and safety and writing down your password somewhere, but not putting it on a digital device. But is that not, obviously that's not the right thing, but writing it somewhere, of course, it can water, fire, the standard losing it. Anyway, so what it meant was that he got in touch with a hacking team to try and hack the corrupted file to try and get the password, because in the time of him actually buying the Bitcoin and the time of then trying to get the Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin massively shot up. Initially, the team of hackers said, no, there's nothing that we can do. The Robo4 software that you are using is some software that we just don't obviously have any ability to be able to do so, until they looked into the weeds of this. And they realized that since the new versions have come out, that there had been an updated, even more secure password generator. And so therefore they thought, well, okay, well, what does this mean? Anyway, cut a long story short, they hacked and hacked and hacked. And I would definitely urge for viewers and listeners to watch the video as they hack time to unlock a hardware wallet. What did you think to this story?
Yeah. Just for anyone that's worried, they essentially hacked a password manager as opposed to the wallet technically.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Essentially what he did, it's unclear actually, because I was just Googling it to see when BIP39 came out, because that is when 24 words was possible. Before that, you would literally get your Bitcoin key phrase, and it would be literally an encrypted set of characters that you would have to, it would be impossible to memorize, and you'd have to be very careful writing that down. And typically need to be a developer. So I think, listening to it, I think he would just pre 24 words, which is why he did what he did, which is you generate the key and then you very quickly and you split it in two, encrypted it, and put it onto two separate hard drives. The hard drives went kaput, so he couldn't unlock it. So yeah, so what they, and it was 43 Bitcoin. So at the time he was like, it's a couple of grand. It blew up quite quickly, I think, as well, he said. I think it literally in the first couple of months of him doing it,
yeah,
blew up. Right. And he went, oh, well, it's a couple of grand gone, bit gutted, but it is what it is. But then obviously 10 years ago, I think this video is from, or at least the events seem to be from 2023, even though the video is brand new. It seems to be, they've spent probably about a year editing it, because I think the editing is brilliant in the video. It's a very good documentary, clearly over a period of time where they had a lot of footage and they've mashed it all together to produce this thing. And so yeah, that 43 Bitcoin goes from being worth a couple of grand to now $3 million. So now he's, didn't carry on being a Bitcoiner after that, doesn't have a load of coins somewhere else. It literally seems to be the only coins he ever bought were these ones. So the way they managed to get into it was they realized that RoboForm, was it Robo Password, or anyway, essentially it's supposed to generate a random password, but they actually aren't random. It's when you click password, it actually looks at the time and date on your computer and just generates a password from that. And actually, so if 100 people all click the button at exactly the same date and time, they all have the same password. And that's when they suddenly realized, that takes down the number of combinations from more drops of water in the ocean times like 4 trillion. Yeah, I think they have a great little quote at the beginning going, you could run every supercomputer. It's a little bit like hacking Bitcoin. If you can't narrow down the options, it's impossible. Just to hack one password that is 20 characters long, same as hacking 24 words or hacking a Bitcoin key, it is completely impossible unless you've encrypted those words and left them digitally somewhere, and the application you use to encrypt them, the password, isn't as random as you thought it was. And now suddenly the number of options went from being all the stars in the universe to actually it's pretty much just this swimming pool of water We just need to check this because you know you created in 2013. You know the rough month. There's only so many dates and times during that time, so we just need to run all of them. And pop, they got it unlocked. And they're interviewing him, aren't they? And they walk in with a $4 million check like behind his head, and he's there going, "Yeah, hopefully one day I get it, but who knows?" They said it's unlikely, and they just walk in going, "We nailed it, we cracked it. Here's your words, well, here's your money. Unlocked a Bitcoin wallet." And so fair play. It's a nice story, but this is one where obviously it actually the thing I took away from it was holy shit, that how many people have encrypted a wallet using that application
Yeah.
in 2013
Yeah.
that don't just have 40 coins on, might have thousands of coins on. And now suddenly it is not secure whatsoever. And this video undoubtedly, I think, would have just got a load of people going, holy shit, let's go get an old version of this software. Let's generate every single password that could have possibly been, which, it's only going to be like 1 billion passwords or something that could have been in those couple of years. That takes a computer like 20 minutes to run. So you can just fire that at a load of Bitcoin wallets, and they're just going to see which ones unlock. So if I was from back in those days and they'd used that, I would be shitting it when this video came out.
Yeah, it's
I
all,
hadn't
of
even
course.
thought of that angle.
Well, it all depends, however, of course, if people have or have not updated the version as well.
No, because it's when the password was created. So they might have a new version, but every password that was created in 2013 was created on that version at that time using the thing. So if they've created a new password, I think it was post 2016, they actually said the update was
2016,
done.
yeah,
Yeah, so
right.
it was post 2016, the update was done. But every password generated before that update in 2016 follows this methodology. So unless you've changed it since you were issued it would be like it's like someone's giving you a piece of paper. Just because you get a new piece of paper, what was written on that piece of paper is still the same. So, all those passwords. I hadn't even thought of that angle, Mr. Orlin. But I wasn't in Bitcoin then, so I don't need to worry about it.
It's why it's so terrifying back in the day when, because you didn't have 24 words, it was so hard to write it down on a piece of paper and just risky that you made a bit of a typo or something. And because it's such a long key, right? It's, forget how long it is, but it's probably about 50 characters, upper and lower case, letters and numbers. And it's, it's so easy to make a mistake in there, no matter how many times you verify it, right? Whereas with 24 words, once you generate that on a device one by one, you write them down, you test it, all kind of, it's a nice, simple process, right? But back in the day, you would generate a key and you would encrypt it and you just store it. And obviously we know now that storing anything Bitcoin related in a digital realm is risky. And this is the type of reason why you can encrypt things all the way down. But if the encryption keys that you've used or password generators you've used have a flaw in, then it's just a sort of wide open door straight in. So the good thing is anyone that's got a Ledger, a Trezor, a Jade, and you've generated your 24 words in the last 5, 6, however many years, and it's just been generated on the device, you've written those things down on a bit of paper or engraved it into some metal, put those somewhere safe, they're not at risk at all from anything like this. This is completely something different. But it's, in this instance, it's a good news story.
Yeah.
I'd imagine sitting behind this, if they are the first ones that have found this, fair play. I suspect they're not. And it wouldn't surprise me that there's a number of people that have had Bitcoin just disappear from wallets back years ago that they thought were secure that suddenly weren't. And how the hell did someone grab that key off my laptop, off my PC?
Yeah.
And it's because of this vulnerability. And it's one of those things, like the word random is extremely hard to get a computer to be random. It's extremely hard to get a human to be random, which is why you literally use an application. Like humans are very bad at creating random passwords.
Yeah.
You ask a human to do it, like they'll follow a pattern. It was just
we need patterns.
They're very predictable. But machines are as well. Like you can't tell a computer be random. They go, no, you need to tell me what to do. I will follow what you say. You can't just say be random. Like they don't understand. That's a subjective term. So you code randomness in by going, I know, let's write this load of set of characters and we'll do this complicated algorithm based on the date and time. it appears random until you realize what it's doing. And you go, it's basing it off this key, which is just the date and time. If I know the date and time, I can reverse engineer the password. And you're like, well, now it's not random. Now it's just, you might as well just be doing password 123. It's completely broken. So yeah, whenever you're using anything in computing that it says it's random, it almost can't be. It can be reverse engineered because you have to tell the computer what to do.
Yeah.
And the second you're doing that, there was a way of looking in the code and going, oh, right, yeah. So on this date and time, it does that. And on this one, it does that. And yeah, it's who knows, maybe with the evolution of AI, maybe AI can be random. Might be a good test for it.
Well, that did make me think about AI and obviously whether or not they could reverse engineer the bit 39 words as well in a similar fashion. And I was thinking,
No.
like, it'd be so hard, but yeah, no.
No, because it's brute force. The only way to get into a 24 word or to unlock a wallet through 24 words is just by brute force. There's no like level of intelligence. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't mean you can unlock a wallet that has literally a trillion combinations. There's no smartness about that unless you manage to get into the Bitcoin BIP 39, and just as these guys did on this password generator, does BIP 39 have a fundamental flaw where sometimes the 24 words generation is not as random as it says it is?
We were talking before about not asking questions we don't want to know the answers to before this all started. I feel like that's a question I don't want to know the answer to.
Yeah. The good thing is, if there was, every wallet that has any money in would have already been drained. So that's so far, this is always the thing, right? Bitcoin is an experiment, and as the value of the Bitcoin network goes up, the bounty for hacking Bitcoin goes up and up and up. At the moment, you get $500 billion if you can hack Bitcoin, because that's the price of the network, right? So you would probably be able to get away with 10% of that before the network would trend to zero, because clearly someone's hacked it. So if there was a vulnerability somewhere in that network, the bounty is $500 billion. I can guarantee you someone would be running riot in there right now if there was any kind of bugs. So as we always fall back to, Satoshi he wasn't doing any bollocks like this. Company were generating random passwords in 2013 in this robo form thing. He didn't do any schoolboy errors like that. Our Bitcoin developers and Satoshi they are literally like the cyber security kind of people and the cypherpunks. They are genuinely the smartest, most secure, privacy focused people on the planet, and their proof point is Bitcoin. Right, it's open source out there with $500 billion on it right now. Hack it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No one can.
Try it.
No one has.
Try it.
And I can guarantee millions of people literally would have tried by now. No one's done it.
The prize is big enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
But even just for bragging rights.
But I do wonder whether, going back to something you said before, it's not so much, unless I'm misunderstanding the technicalities behind it, but is there a flaw in the way that Ledger generates the 24 words? You know, like a specific brand or something like that?
Yeah, they all use BIP 39, so they but yeah, there is a potential for that. They should just use the network, and you basically call the network and it generates the words for you. But there is a chance that the hardware wallet is doing something for you. Or there's the most likely thing really is that there could be a leak that as they're generated somewhere on a chip, those words were stored in some shape or form that could be accessed in the future. But they're
questions we don't want to know the answers to.
No.
But again, if that was the case, right, we would see a whole flurry of hacks on certain hardware, and we haven't seen those.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it. Because it's the beautiful thing. Like, if anything was insecure about Bitcoin, like the reward is just right there. You can steal it from anywhere in the world, put it into your account, and you can just leave it there for a decade, can't you? And just the person that used to own it doesn't now. You can see what wallet it's gone to, but provided it doesn't move again and doesn't hit an exchange, you're not in possession of it, but you've been hacked. So, yeah. Bitcoin is secure for now, but it was yeah. I'm a little bit mixed. It's like this guy almost got forced hodl where he turned a couple of grand into 3 mil, and you go, he's kind of bizarrely by actually being a little bit incompetent there.
Yeah.
Locked out, and because I can guarantee you would have sold earlier.
Yeah, of course.
No way. Like that hits 100K, he probably goes, "Oh my God, 100K, right? I only put a couple of grand in." Maybe even at 50K. Or would he have held through 100K, 200K, 3, 4, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million? And now he's got the 3 million. It'll be interesting to see what he does, I guess. But he straight away
He sells it.
You see talking about cars, apartments, businesses.
Yeah.
Like that 3 mil is gone, isn't it already?
It's gone. It's gone.
He's selling it. He's absolutely selling it. He was talking all the way through at the end about selling it. Like sets his son up,
Yeah.
set another business up, wants a new car. He's not a Bitcoiner.
No. Which is why he was so desperate for these 40 coins that he got in 2013 for a little bit of change that he had lying around. And
I was also quite interested to understand what the fee would have been for the two people that helped him recover it as well. Like, did they want 10%, 20%,
yeah, I'm not sure.
and so forth? Because they didn't go into that. But I was just like, guys are putting in I know there's a sense of pride in a sense of we achieved something that was nigh on impossible, but equally there must be some sort of financial reward off the back of this.
They'll make money off the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Yeah. My understanding is the guy is already independently extremely wealthy, and he just does this as a hobby. He helps people out.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think I doubt he charged anything. Which is why he walks out with the check for the full amount, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah.
There's no like, oh, I'm taking, yeah, because usually when stuff like this happens, if you have, because I've seen it happen before where people have got Bitcoin off the original ledgers or Trezors.
Yep.
Because provided you have the physical device, there was ways back in the day to like fire electricity into it, and depending on how the electricity came out the other side, would indicate which words it had in it.
Oh,
It was
nice.
bizarre. So it was kind of crazy. But those guys were charging 30, 40, 50% of what they recovered.
There you go. Yeah.
Because it's obviously an extremely technical thing that not many people can do. So you
Yeah.
can charge what you want, right? If you want 100% of nothing or 50% of something.
Yeah. And these guys came across as super technical.
All right. Should we move on to Inflation Weekly? It's actually a good one for once.
Yeah.
A positive one. And I'm going to link the video.
That's the cost of living crisis. Suddenly we went up from prices being around there to prices being there. And you don't really see that in this data, okay? Because inflation is really just measuring the difference between that and that. And if you look at those two lines, you're talking about a 2.3% change. That's the number we're talking about today. But for a lot of people, it's not about that. It's about the difference between this and that. And when you look at the difference between this and that, that's 20%. And I think that's the dichotomy here between these inflation numbers where it looks normal and this, which is really not normal at all.
So they're finally being honest. This is what we've gone on about. And I actually love their articulation of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, that whole like, you know, freaking dishy-rishy, constantly talking about inflation's down, you got no problem, what you're talking about. It's down 2%, everyone's fine. But then they've got the chart on the screen. It's like, we're not arguing about this little bit at the top. We're arguing about all this.
Yeah.
And they've finally gone, yeah, inflation compounds. For the 20% inflation to go away, we need a minus 20% year, not a plus 2. That just means inflation's even worse. And it's, I don't know, are they finally telling the truth?
It's interesting that it was Sky News. But yeah, it was so visual. Like plain sight, graph, 20%, massive thing. There was no like smoke and mirrors or hiding anything. It was literally right there. Yeah, they're talking about it, and it's Sky News. Like this isn't, you know, LBC or anything like that. You know, this is Sky News talking about it. Interesting to see the BBC didn't say anything.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's everything that everybody has been saying, but obviously being said on a large broadcast. But then I wonder if people are going further and then asking them to expand on that, because the year was, of course, from COVID upwards. What I mean by expand on it is just simply saying, okay, so why? Why do they lie? Why do they say, well, inflation has only increased or decreased because it's slowed down and is now at 2.3%? And the simple question of, why do we even need inflation? Why is there this mythical number of an increase of 2% every year? And ultimately, we know the reason why, and it's because it's theft year on year, and there is no real reason for things to increase in price. If anything, they should be decreasing in price because things become easier and cheaper to make, especially in a technological world as well. So it's a strange one, but equally, maybe we'll see more of this.
It's an agenda though, isn't it? And it's an interesting one because we're leading up to our election. It's clearly pointed at the government. Sky is owned by Murdoch. We talk about people owning stuff and pulling the strings. Like, I find it interesting that it was Sky News that called it out, because you wouldn't normally associate that with any of Murdoch's news productions. It goes against that grain. So then you think, well, why? What's the motivation here?
Yeah.
The only thing I can think sometimes is, sometimes they just like to be able to do stuff like this and then be able to call back on it to go, look, we did tell you the truth. It is here. But yeah, you did this once. But then how many times has politicians gone, inflation's under control, it's back to 2%, and gone exactly against it? You're like, so, okay, fine. One news outlet told the truth once, extremely clearly. But how many times did you repeat the political narrative that inflation is under control and prices are now returning back and the cost of living crisis is over because inflation is back down to 2%? How many times have you perhaps spoken that line?
Yeah.
Because I'd imagine a lot of people that see this just, I don't know, maybe they go, oh, wow. That, there's I guess a proportion that go, wow, that they massively lied. Anyway, back to lie. Politician lied to me again. Big whoopsie. Like, of course they do. And I don't think they understand the scale of this lie. Once you realize that literally this is that 20% they put on there, that means your life savings, the price of your house, the price of your car, your salary. You took a 20% cut on all that. All since 2021. And that, by the way, this is CPI, which we also know is a lie. It doesn't include meat. It doesn't include energy. It didn't include house prices before. It didn't include used cars. They took all the high inflation things out and left in just the things that largely stayed the same, and still they couldn't keep the percent down below 20. Imagine if they did put all that stuff back in.
Yeah.
It would be at 80, 90, like 100%. And when you see that, you go, that is, that is the kind of, that is why people are like struggling to live. It's not largely their fault anymore. It is inflation. Like the cost of living is sky high, remains sky high, is still going up. And the official line from the government is, everything's fine now. It's all been corrected.
So what you're saying is just buy Bitcoin.
Man, I think I honestly don't know what I would be doing if I didn't have Bitcoin. Like these are especially during the whole lockdown period. Happily, I was well into Bitcoin before then, but if I'd gone into that lockdown period without having Bitcoin, I don't know what I'd done. I just felt so helpless and just like this entire machine is against me and I've earned this money and they're just stealing it. And I guess other than playing their games, just throw it all into the stock market and into property and stuff, which that leads nicely on to next story, actually. Should we throw our money into property? Only a
I feel like this is a
fool.
loaded article. I feel like someone's
Yeah.
put this in here to just poke the bear a little bit,
I, I, I
I like to
know.
drop this in like
It's
once every couple of months. I drop a Bitcoin versus property story just to like poke at some level of
doing David Hay versus value over here.
It was funny actually because so obviously we always start off researching the stories, or you'll create the agenda throughout the week, and I saw this one pop up, and on purpose I haven't clicked it. I was just like, he just wants to trigger me, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Obviously I could see the headline of what it was all about. I was just like, I'm not going to do it. But interestingly, and obviously we'll come on to this, I saw and watched part of a video on YouTube where it was also talking about the next collapse could be in real estate, but the real estate was commercial real estate as opposed to residential.
Oh, that's already happened.
Because exactly. That's a zombie.
Yeah, there's loads of it's the only thing that's keeping it up at the moment is the fact that people had like 10-year rents on these commercial properties, aren't they? So they're still paying it, but there's no one in the office anymore. So
correct.
When those leases come up, they're just going to be vacant.
It's not even that. It's the shops. It's all the stuff. Like it's just gone. You can't buy a shop now. Well, you can, but why would you? It's just
the high street has been dead for years.
Dead.
But
it was dying, and then COVID killed it. Like fully killed it.
Yeah,
because everybody was like, "Wait, I can just order my groceries online, and it gets delivered." I've never been bothered to set this up before, but now I've set it up. Why would
I go back? Yeah, why would I go back?
Yeah.
Basically,
there is nothing you can't buy on Amazon. It won't be long before you can buy a haircut on Amazon.
Yeah, but anyway, moving back to the story. This is
I see what you did there.
I want to keep shitting on property for a little bit. But in reality, it's nothing like new news, really. I think what it is essentially it's probably the key property kind of influencers that run these big groups are starting to have these realizations of, they clearly, because obviously when we were growing up, the rich people when we were growing up all made their money largely in property, right? The property boom from the 50s to like the 2000s were, if you managed to get more than one property, you were probably a millionaire. Once you just hold the two things, right? And the other one will go through the roof. You'll probably be sat on two houses that you got for 20k a pop. You fast forward to 50 years and they're probably worth £1 million now between the two. If you manage to actually have a property portfolio, you're now in the uber wealthy category and you can claim all the things you want to claim that, I bought in good areas, No, all houses just went up. It went from, we went from having single salary homes to double salary homes. And then obviously there was a load of manipulation around the property price. It became a vehicle for the uber wealthy just to buy up shit tons of property. And the scarcity of them is also manipulated, where we've got governments preventing homes to be built to keep the house property prices high. But the gold rush is essentially over when it comes to property, right? They're largely like everyone needs a home. They are a safe asset of the rich, but the huge gains are largely gone. So if you're using the previous generation's model for wealth into the next generation, you're probably going to come unstuck because largely the majority of the gains are gone. Probably keeps you up with inflation, just about, but it's probably about it. It's better than keeping it in cash, put it in property, absolutely. But if you've got the option of Bitcoin sat there, and this is the realization of this DFW real estate investment, who has a group of 46,000 people that's been shilling property, seemingly, well, his chart goes back to 2012, right? And then he suddenly had this realization. He's clearly stumbled across Bitcoin, and he's plotted house prices against the price of Bitcoin. And clearly, if you go back to 2012, the chart is pretty much straight down for poor property. Clearly, no matter how tax efficient it is, how many assets you've got, the rise in price in property in those 12 years, how much rental income you collected, all that kind of stuff, nothing can go against the greatest asset of the last decade that is Bitcoin. And it's just, and I find the real estate property guys to be similar to the gold bugs, because they tend to know 98% of the same information that Bitcoiners know, but they think their solution is their one. And they think, no, property is the way out. And they probably got pension funds and bonds and all that kind of stuff. And the gold bugs are the same. They're tied into this old world. And it's like, come on, over the last 15 years, unfortunately for you, Bitcoin was created, and you were right before that. You've been wrong afterwards. And slowly but surely, these guys are popping up now going, we were wrong. If you plot our portfolios against Bitcoin, we were so wrong. Switching to Bitcoin. Get out of property.
It's true with regards to that, and also the ease. I always go back to the cash flow.
That's so liquid.
Yeah.
That was the number one thing that always stopped me from doing property. It's so slow. I don't want my cash tied up in an asset, even if it's increasing. I don't want it. I want it easy. That's why I always veered into stocks. So I can largely keep up with the price of property back in the day. Because what is it, like 10, 15% a year, largely, the increase in property. I can keep up with that on stocks. And if I ever want that money back for any reason, even in the old financial world, within a week, I can have that money. Property, I want that money. I might be waiting years to sell that house.
Yeah.
And then even when you sell it, you finally get now you got to go for lawyers, 3 to 6 months for that. Oh, like, who wants, like, and to a certain extent, I kind of see it sometimes where you go, like, almost the harder it was to get into Bitcoin and the harder it was to secure, it's almost that was the barrier entry. So by getting over that barrier gets you in at a better price.
Yeah.
So I almost thought, am I doing that with property? Am I being, because I'm lazy and want easy access, is this a barrier for entry where these people are going to make loads of money and I'm not? But I looked at it and went, no, I can make the same gains and it's just easier. And I would take the path of least resistance. Because fundamentally, I think sometimes it's good to be lazy at heart because it makes you find the most efficient way of solving a problem. And if I want to make 10, 15% on my money, shove it into the S&P 500, that'll do it. Buy a house and rent it out and have to go, give me a break for 15%. if that was 100%, all right. But 50, like, nah, go.
Tenants are easy. You never get any problems from tenants.
Tenants are not easy.
And by the way, they're only going to get worse, aren't they? With this whole cost of living crisis and inflation, this is all part of the collapse of the rental market plus the housing market overall. Not only a load of people going to default on their mortgages, there's going to be a load of tenants defaulting on their rental agreements, and the banks will have the power to go around and enforce these kind of a mortgage collapse, and they'll go and claim the property back. Independent renters, that's on you. Go get that person out of your house. They ain't moving, right? And they have families. They aren't not paying because they don't want to. They're not paying because they can't physically afford it, and they can't afford to move out and go anywhere else. So what are they going to do? Not pay their rent or turn their family out on the street? They're not going to pay the rent.
We'll see.
Getting it. Have I scared you enough yet?
No, never. Never. Because I don't see I don't think that you have to kind of choose one or the other. Because again, I'll still come back to it in terms of like the cash flow of the property is always good. And the increase, obviously, we've always talked about the increase of the value of the house as well. But people will always need somewhere to live. And so, yeah, the government will make it hard. They've always made it hard. They'll make Bitcoin hard. But it's one of those strategies that I think for now, I've doubled down more on Bitcoin because it's easier, but I wouldn't necessarily leave property alone because it's been pretty lucrative for me.
All right. Well, we'll revisit this in 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'll slip another one in 3 months.
Oh, well, I will not let it go. I will keep going, but fundamentally, it's put it on ice and in 5 years' time, it'll be one of those where you're going, you were right again. I'm almost doing the I told you so 5 years early, but I'm giving you a long heads up.
The devil's advocate to this and me sitting on the fence just to be the referee in the middle is that you did tell him 5 years ago and he is still okay.
The property. Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Well, maybe I did. Yeah. I don't think I said it was going to collapse though within 5 years. I think now.
No.
I fundamentally said I think 5 years ago you'll make more money in Bitcoin than in property. That's what I was saying then, and I was correct on that one. Whereas if you'd have put all the money you put into property 5 years ago into Bitcoin, you would have made more.
True.
What I'm saying now, I think we are within 5 years of potentially a residential property collapse. So
I'll wait for it. I'll wait for it. Bookmark. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's what was it? It was meant to happen between 2026 and 2028.
Really?
Yeah, that's when it's meant to happen.
I mean, yeah, like I said, if I think about the money I put into Bitcoin versus money I put into property, clearly Bitcoin has won without a shadow of a doubt, even with the cash flow. But it's the diversity as well. Classic sailor tactic. And sailor's like, you don't need to diversify.
There is no second best.
There is no second best.
Going up forever, Laura. It's going up forever.
Unfortunately, all these arguments fall away.
Through the winter and through the bear markets, again, the property was still cash flowing.
Yeah, well, the thing is,
whereas if it had stopped where it was in terms of Bitcoin, and if we didn't know when that was going to ride out, and obviously the upturn which it's kind of taken now, I think I was happy with the safest houses analogy.
Well, all I'm saying at this point is the property boat hasn't sunk yet, and there's been money to be made. You've made some fantastic. Get off before it sinks.
Get off.
And it's up to you whether you wait until you're taking on water. The problem is, once you start taking on water, you'll go, oh, okay, maybe time to get out. Rent's sporadic, prices are down. If you're underwater, so is everyone else. And it's going to be a rush to the exits, and there's going to be no buyers. Yeah, and obviously we talk about it all the time. Like this is engineered. This isn't me just being like, oh, I'm anti-property. This is being engineered specifically. They don't want property in the hands of independent and buy-to-let owners anymore. Part of the lockdown stuff was to get rid of independent businesses. It worked fantastically. Hence why we all shop with supermarkets and Amazon now, right? All the independents got killed. They're doing the same with property. This is a plaything of the elite and the super rich. In the last 50 years, they kind of lost probably 10 or 20% of those properties. And there's a load of individuals that made a load, and this whole buy-to-let kind of industry popped up. They can crush you like a bug so easy.
I don't doubt it.
And once they decide to put their foot down, all these independent renters go under. Guess who picks all the properties up when potentially you go insolvent, or the mortgage owner, independent mortgage owner goes insolvent, or get collected by the banks. They all get bought up for pennies by the BlackRocks and Vanguard funds. And guess where we are? We are in the world of you own nothing and be happy. We all become renters, right? Yeah. I'm just saying this is literally part of the plan. It's and they go for the homes last. They take everything else first. They're taking independent businesses. They're taking the food. They're going down. They're almost like or up the hierarchy of needs. Property is the last one. And and as you know, they're squeezing it already in property.
Oh, they've already,
Taxation, extra regulation.
absolutely.
But when they really want to crush you, it's just one flick of a pen, right? And they've crushed you because they can just put a huge amount of pressure on the rental incomes, and it's over. It's over for the independent.
I'm sure I'll hear some comments from one listener in particular who we all know following from this podcast. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if I look back and think back to things like the amount of percentage that you needed to own a second property, that went up. It's at 25% during COVID. It went up to 35, even 40%. Yeah. There's the additional stamp duty tax that they put on people that they have to pay. So, the bar is increasingly increasing in terms of becoming higher and higher. And so you're absolutely right. It will be maybe 2 or 3 years more. And also, again, we're starting to sound more and more political, but it will, again, depend on who gets into power as to...
The agenda's been driven by the WEF 2020, 2030, the Great Reset. So it doesn't matter which colour tie gets in. The same thing will happen.
Yeah.
There's already pictures, Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, all at the WEF. Yeah, that's a political organisation.
They're also typically homeowners or property owners as well. Multiple property owners, typically.
These guys aren't going to get fucked by it,
but no, they were.
This is the thing, isn't it? When all the independent butchers go bust, people don't stop eating meat, right? They buy it from the supermarket butcher instead, right? And it'll be the same when people are renting houses. They currently rent them from, by a strong chance, it might be an independent person that owns 1 to 10 properties. When they do this, when they push the button on it, all the people with 1 to 10 properties go pop, right? They don't have the cash flow to survive it. So all those properties get sucked up by the big boys. And now we're all renting off 1 or 2 huge companies. There'll be an Amazon of property. Right?
Yeah.
In America, it is BlackRock. I forget the crazy stats, like they're buying 10 homes a day or something nuts. And they have a property portfolio of like 5 million homes in America. And you go, what is going on? They are slowly but surely creating these businesses that not only do they already own the shops and the food, they're slowly but surely owning all the property as well. They're stealing it back off us. Fucked up.
Thanks for that on the agenda. I might have to do a Dr. Evil 10%, and my finger might slip the next time that the agenda gets written during the week.
Accidentally delete that link. Yeah.
Accidentally on purpose. So the next article that we've got and the next story we've got is an interesting one, and it's one that has been raised previously before. And it's as simple as, is Elon Satoshi Nakamoto? And here's a couple of reasons as to why. I won't read through them all, but some of the interesting ones that I thought sprung to mind, and I thought were interesting, is his X.com email was on the mailing list that Satoshi sent the white paper to. Now, of course, X.com is now Twitter, of course, but that was an interesting one for me. And the meme-like dialect, retarded. If you don't believe it, I don't have time to convince you. Any others that stood out for you?
Yeah, obviously the PayPal link.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously the internet of money that he left. Already wealthy, doesn't need to touch Satoshi coins, I guess. Double space, code in C++. I don't really think that's a thing. Everyone coded in C++ back then. But he does have the skills. But then, go on, this one is a little bit odd, right? The name of his latest kid that he calls X, but then it has a number of odd characters behind it. And when I've heard him discuss this and explain what is the longer version of X, his son, what does this name mean? And he said that the AE character is the mum liked that character. That was her favorite character, and she's into anime and all that kind of stuff. So it's just she liked it. And then this AXII thing apparently is some form of plane, and it's his favorite plane. But then these guys are going, no, this AE thing actually means Ash, and Ash is from Pokemon, whose name is Satoshi in Japanese. You go, oh, are we playing like, the 7 layers of Kevin Bacon, where everyone's related to everyone? Are we just doing pattern matching? But it's an interesting little coincidence, if it is a coincidence. But that was quite compelling, I thought, when I saw that. But,
yeah.
What do you think? Did it convince anyone that we think Elon is Satoshi or not?
I thought there was an interesting bit in there which said about all the stuff that he's building. The only thing that was missing was the monetary network. But why hide it? I mean, well, okay, sorry, that's a question that we all know the answer to. You know exactly why you'd hide it, but yeah, it's almost not too obvious. But I'm not buying it. In short,
no, I absolutely don't buy it, because the thing is, I've heard Elon talk about Bitcoin, right, and unless he is the best actor in the world, right, because he has talked incompetently about Bitcoin. And it's the only topic I've ever heard him talk incompetently about. He's probably one of the most rounded, probably the smartest guy in our generation, probably multiple generations. And he clearly had not studied Bitcoin. He did not understand some of the core fundamentals. He definitely didn't understand Lightning, which, to be fair, not understanding Lightning doesn't mean you're not Satoshi, because Satoshi had nothing to do with Lightning. But yeah, I don't buy it.
Yeah, and through like you say, unless he's the best actor in the world, why was and he's just doing it for shits and giggles? Why is he throwing why did he throw so much energy behind Dogecoin? Why did he, why did he sell the Bitcoin from Tesla when he bought it? Why would you not just hold it? You say, okay, we're making this play, we're doing this, we're keeping it, and we're just not going to touch it. We've made that decision, but he didn't. He sold it. It's too many games. It's one thing playing games a little bit, and then it's another thing playing not even 4D chess. It's like 10D chess. And I'm with you, and all the FUD around the energy and all that kind of stuff. It's like, if he was, it's almost like he's trying too hard not to be. So,
I think one of Elon's weaknesses is he has an ego. He definitely likes to be the guy.
Yes.
He likes to win. He likes to publicly win. He likes to get out there and have the adulation. I think that he really craves that. So if he was Satoshi, I honestly don't think he could have kept it quiet for 15 years. He'd have gone, it's me, motherfuckers. At some point, he'd have cracked and gone, it's me. I've got the coins. Here they are. I don't need them. It's only like 18 billion. Who needs that? Who cares? But he's probably literally the only guy on the planet that can say that he doesn't need 1 million Bitcoin. It's literally probably doesn't barely move the needle for him on his net worth. But yeah, it's
and
I don't think it's him.
And if he is, where the bloody hell did he find the time? Because he was off doing everything else that he's already done and achieved.
Man, he has like 6 kids as well.
Exactly.
This guy has like more hours in the day than everyone else. Yeah. Because even without creating Bitcoin, it was impossible to create PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, fucking the Boring Company, Twitter.
Yeah.
6 kids, constantly pumping them out as well. He's never fucking had enough, has he? He's always this is part of his ego, obviously, talking as well. He's like, my genes are good. And part of his
I'm going to replicate this. Yeah.
I need as many little mini me's running around as possible, because I can only do so much. I might get us to Mars, but then I'll die. I need my kids to come through and make civilization on Mars work, and we need
Yeah.
another set of evolution of our technology to survive over there, and get everyone there. And so, yeah, so bizarrely, the he doesn't have time thing is actually the one thing where to go. It wouldn't matter. Like, Elon seemed to be of this mindset where he could have probably, if he'd honestly put his mind to it, I wouldn't put it past him getting close to Satoshi's level of coding on Bitcoin within like a weekend or something. As we can see, he's on the newsletter, isn't he? So
Yeah.
he's not like just guessing this. He would be already have all the mental and like the background reading. He'd have probably, I'm sure, saw Hashcash, eCash, all the previous versions. Obviously, he created a PayPal variant. And it always surprised me actually when I heard him talk. He talked relatively incompetently about Bitcoin, but then if someone mentioned like Hashcash or eCash, which are the early variants that the cyberpunks talked about on this email list, he knew about it instantly. It's almost like, oh, have you broken character a little bit there? Because how do you not understand Bitcoin, but you know what came before Bitcoin? It can explain it in detail. Those two things don't line up because they were the precursors that didn't matter. This is the one that hit it. Surely you like so someone like Elon, for what would take me 1,000 hours to absorb, he just skims read it in half an hour, and he obviously has the knowledge as me.
Yeah.
How have you not spent half an hour?
I know. That's the thing with these super, super smart people. And, again, from our prior investing days, is they would be able to get to the answer lightning quick just through their experience and knowledge, their prior knowledge, and then the new knowledge that they take on, and then mapping it back onto that, and just go from A to Z super quick to be like, yeah, this works, or actually there's a fault here and a flaw here. We've not thought about that. So it always just makes me wonder, and I know we've spoken about this previously before, but when certain smart people don't get Bitcoin and then others do. And I came across someone new this week, and I was going to add him to the show notes, but I think I'll do it for another time. Or equally, we don't really touch on price, but a guy called Fred Krueger, and he's kind of talking more about I think it was the power wave, or so obviously there was the Plan B stock to flow model, and he's talking about a power model, or a power wave, or
Freddy
power
Krueger,
curve.
is it? From the horror film.
No. But he seems like a super interesting and equally smart guy, and because ultimately it's all about mass. And I was just like, well, he gets it. He didn't get it before, and it's the same with regards to our guy Michael Saylor as well. Once upon a time, just didn't get it, and then of course he gets it. After, of course, looking into it further and further. So, yeah, Fred Krueger.
Yeah, it never made sense. I do think there is a level of acting, I think, with Elon. I think Elon does get Bitcoin better than he lets on, but do I think he is Satoshi? No. Because I remember being so impressed with him. I remember when I was in my investing days again, and listening to the shareholder calls as a Tesla shareholder, and the presentations, and they'd launch a new version of the Tesla, right? And the questions that he was getting, to be fair to him, he really vetoed the shareholder questions that were allowed. There's a load of like people that used to hang around and just do the FUD ones, and he just cancelled them from the calls. So the questions were largely softballs, but they did go into a lot of detail, and they would literally go, how did you upgrade the engine from or the battery from this to this tire from that to that? The level of detail he would go into his answers I always found completely fucking insane. He would go down to it going, oh yeah, we tried this bolt with this material, it didn't fit. We had to re-engineer the sashay, the battery had to move back, the seats move forward, and then we managed to shave off like an extra 4 grams of weight, and that meant the battery could go here. We could have the. You go, how do you know all these decisions happen? Like, you are the founder and CEO, just of that company, and then sometimes I'd listen to his explanations about SpaceX as well, and he'd be explaining rocket science in the same level of detail, and you go, obviously his capability of taking information and being able to speak it and retain that information and then apply it, and just because all these things he was talking about was, especially with the cars, it was, oh yeah, we were going to use the sashay, the sashay from I forget which car it was, but they basically just went, we re-engineered the entire thing, because just about every single thing he did with the early Teslas didn't exist before. Like every single, that was why electric cars didn't work, because nothing was right. Like he was like, oh, we were trying to buy the batteries. No one could make the battery, so we just went. Instead, I just went and bought the more raw minerals that makes batteries, made them myself. And then it was like, oh, we needed these certain screws and nuts and wheels. No one made them, so I set up a different part of the factory that made wheels. Jesus Christ! Like, no car manufacturer does these things. There's so many universal parts, and I've got engineering mates that go, oh yeah, like 7 cars, you'll think like that's a BM, that's an Audi, that's a Ford, that's a like da da da. They're all the same. There's so many like shared parts and so many cars. Yeah, Elon like pretty much re-engineered the car for a Tesla, and he knew it in intimate detail. So yes, it was always a bit surprising when I heard him talk about Bitcoin. Sometimes he's getting some of the fundamentals wrong, and like comparing it to Doge and going like they're comparable, and you go, you know better than this. Like, even if you've looked at this for 5 minutes, Elon, you know that's not right.
Correct.
How? But who knows? Maybe this is Elon's world and we're all just living in it. If he invented Bitcoin as well, then fuck me.
Yeah.
Yeah. If on his deathbed, his final tweet is, I am Satoshi, and then wrote it, it'll be a legendary way to go out. Because finally, they can't get him. They can't get him to shut it down or get the Satoshi coins. He's like, I am Satoshi. Those coins die with me. But I have to give you the heads up. It was me the whole time. I will be a legendary way to go out. Saving humanity. Cars, rockets, money.
Money, yeah.
Sweet.
So, right.
One hero to the next. Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. Heard so much about Tucker. I was still disappointed with his Vladimir Putin interview, if I'm honest. I think he could have gone harder. Yeah, he took his. He let Vlad go on for ages when he was just talking about the history between the Ukraine and Russia, and I don't really think that he prepared to ask him seriously hard questions, because whilst he says that he wasn't scared for his life and he was happy to die and he would be happy to die tomorrow, it didn't really come across like that. He had the opportunity to ask some really tough questions in front of him.
It was via translator as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never think you can do a tough interview when it's via translation.
Yeah.
Especially when someone's giving long answers, right? So he talks for 5 minutes. That's actually a 10-minute answer, because now a translator needs to tell you. And then you give the answer, and he talks. So like to dodge a question when there's a translator there is so easy.
Yeah.
So it is hard to, because really you want to get them when they say the point, don't you? So it might be like 1.5 minutes into a 5-minute answer, they say something that is factually incorrect that you can challenge. You want to jump in there and go, right, I'll let you finish, but on that point, you need to answer this challenge.
Correct.
And if you just let them finish the 5 minutes and then you got, well, Jesus, like they said 17 things that were wrong there. Which one do I drill down into, right? It's impossible. You can't do a proper interview via translating.
And I don't doubt for a second that Vladimir Putin doesn't understand English because he's a super smart guy. So even though he's waiting for the interpreter to obviously translate to him, he knows.
Yeah. There's been plenty of like footballers and sports people that have done that. They've originally didn't know the language and then they've learned it and then just pretend they don't because they know that the interviews are easier. And then they get caught out like just chatting to their mates in English. Like, hold on, why are you doing the interview in Brazilian? But anyway, we're not talking about freaking Vladimir Putin.
No, we're not. We're not. We're talking about Tucker Carlson and taking his show on the road. But how are you linking this one back to Bitcoin?
All right, it's sponsored by Swan.
Yeah.
The Swan Bitcoin. So Swan Bitcoin obviously is a relatively small Bitcoin company in America.
Bitcoin only, we should say as well.
Definitely. Yeah. And yeah, so there's two sponsors on here. Some Ambrosia Night Syrup for allergy relief. Right, okay. And then also Swan Bitcoin is linked. Now, obviously Tucker has been largely run out of town in the mainstream. He's gone after independent, makes it pretty much exclusively on X now, or Twitter. He's taking his show on the road, and there's two sponsors at the moment, and one of them is Swan Bitcoin. So again, it's another place where Bitcoin, and I don't know where they're getting the budget for this. Maybe they're doing better than you think. But I'd imagine these adverts on Tucker Carlson when he goes live are not cheap. So yeah, but it's I think it's quite rare for me to see Bitcoin only companies advertising on like large media platforms. It's quite rare.
Yeah.
You tend to see like crypto.com, FTX, maybe you see a Coinbase. Largely what's funding that and what they're advertising for is they're trying to get the shitcoin crowd in to come in, get wrecked, do a load of trading. So to advertise a Bitcoin only company, it's hard. It's hard to have to spend because it's a hard to sell. And then if you sell it well, people come in, buy Bitcoin, hopefully monthly, and then you never see them again. They don't trade every day trying to lose, and they don't lose the money to you. They just DCA every month, and you never see it again. Like that just goes to that hardware wallet. If you come back and sell, it might be like every 4 or 5 years they'll sell a piece. But it's a very hard business to make money out of Bitcoin.
Yeah, you're right.
Your business is being a Bitcoin only exchange because Bitcoiners don't trade, and that's what all the money is. You want people trading in shitcoins or volatile asset that you're in one shitcoin, out of it, into that other shitcoin, into this meme, into out that to meme, trying to like time the pumps and get out the dumps. But with Bitcoin, it's buy and hodl, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's good to see them hitting the hopefully hitting the big time here. Like, who knows? Hopefully it works.
Yeah, it's an interesting one actually. I guess maybe they're making money from an institutional perspective because I think Swan Bitcoin do work with a lot of large corporations and institutes where they'll help them understand Bitcoin and maybe making a percentage off that.
Yeah, they actually did share their revenue numbers actually, and yeah, you're right. The DCA kind of the plebs DCAing on Bitcoin is relatively small, but when they're doing the large institutional, 10 million, 100 million pound buys, that's when they can take a decent percentage for managing that.
That makes sense.
That's where they make the majority of their money is doing the big institutional buys. So and I've just noticed they've actually got the handle on Twitter now, just at Swan. I'm pretty sure it used to be at Swan Bitcoin. So
it was.
They've even got the swan.com domain name now. I'm pretty sure the word Bitcoin was at the end of Swan before.
Yeah, you're right. It was Swan Bitcoin.
Swan Bitcoin is like a domain name that no one wanted, right? It's just two random words. But swan.com and at Swan are now advertising on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
They've got some. I think they got some dollar.
Yeah, maybe some clout. But ultimately, it's a classic thing, isn't it, where we're talking about, they're lobbying to onboard institutional corporations. There's always people behind every institution. So if they are helping individuals, those individuals will, collectively make up or will maybe have some influence when it comes to the corporations as well. So, they could just be an independently wealthy individual and they'll know such and such and so forth. And you'll also have someone, I'm sure, like, I know they're few and far between, but like a sailor, because Sailor's company, of course, invests in Bitcoin, but so does he. He owns a lot personally. And so, you'll have that perhaps in terms of the flows.
And that's us for this week.
It is. So, yeah, another week has gone by, another Bitcoin podcast brought to you by three of us. Let's see if Dr. Evil 10% survives his hardcore week in Amsterdam. But Pod 143, bullish Bitcoin bullshit and banter was brought to you by Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Mrs. No Show, aka Mrs. No Show, myself, Sir Never Look, aka the Excellence of Execution, and we are out. Peace.
Cheers, boys.